Welcome, welcome everyone to the Bread of Life workshop. I'm so excited to have you here and learn this information. I have been learning a massive amount of information for the last few weeks and, well, a couple months now it's been, and I've been incorporating freshly milled grains into our diet. And I am so excited to share all of these details with you, the benefits that I'm noticing and all of that. But before we get started, if you're brand new and have no idea who I am when you see this recording, I'm Amanda Wright. I'm Coach Amanda Wright. I'm a Christian. I'm happily married for more than 10 years. These are my right boy rascals, I call them, Caleb and Joshua. They are super sweet and fun and definitely keep me on my toes being a boy mom. And I love hydrogen therapy, H2. I'm a fasting enthusiast. I love to learn about how fasting works as far as for spiritual reasons to bring us closer to the Lord. And also, He made that as a special tool for us to be able to heal our bodies naturally. So I'm very much into that as well. I love coffees and cruises, and my mission is to help you feel amazing one glass and one fast at a time. And now I'm also so excited to help you learn all about freshly milled grains and adding bread back in to your diet and your lifestyle, because I don't know if you've heard about all of this, nonsense with, the just pushing of the wheat-free propaganda. It's just wild. And I want to say right off that I don't want to offend anyone who has to be wheat-free due to celiac. I am really sorry about that. There is true genetic celiac, and you'll never be able to have wheat, unfortunately. And I'm very sorry to hear that. So I don't want to discount what anyone is going through with that. Or if you truly have a gluten sensitivity, I'm not mad at you. Like, I love you. I'm sorry about that. But I want to share with those who maybe have gotten a misdiagnosis with the gluten sensitivity or intolerance thing. Maybe they don't really have genetic celiac and they were just diagnosed with celiac disease as an adult. Genetic celiac is genetic, and you have that actually when you're born. You'll know by the time you're 5 if you have it, I bet, because you're so miserable with all the um, symptoms that you're going to be feeling. And so, my hope today is that I want to encourage those that are in that place where they may have been wrongly misdiagnosed. They may be feeling bad, side effects from eating breads. And so they shy away from breads altogether. Or those that have already shied away from the bread because we all got sucked into this wheat free, gluten free, all this nonsense propaganda. It happened to me too for a little while. And something just kept coming back to me. Like, I just kept telling people, even though, I'm a Fast Like a Girl certified coach, and part of that training is to basically, cut out breads, pastas, and sugars. And I totally understand the white flour, cutting that out. Don't get me wrong, all the processed foods are really bad for us. But I always would tell people, like, here's the way that Dr. Mindy teaches you to do it, but here's how I make this lifestyle sustainable. And I would just keep the bread products in the certain phases of my cycle where my hormones actually really like the higher glucose, and not during times when I'm fasting, but adding it in like the week before my cycle or what have you. And so that worked really well for me. I actually had great success doing the protocols taught by Dr. Mindy Pelz in the Fast Like a Girl book that she wrote. And so I don't want to discount any of that. I think it's amazing. But a lot of people are unfortunately misinformed because they're not Christian. And I kept telling people, all of my clients, when they go through my group coaching program, I would tell them, look, I'm a Christian and the Bible says, give us this day our daily bread. And so I'm not about to give up on bread, but I totally understand if you want to. But let me start this off by asking a question. Jesus compares himself to the bread of life in the Bible. So, how can bread be bad for us? If Jesus is literally saying in this verse, listen to what this says. It says, and Jesus said unto them, I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. So, he's literally comparing himself to bread and water here. Okay. So, if bread is so bad for us, why is Jesus saying, I'm like that bread? So, the short answer is it's not. Okay. It's not bad for us. The problem is that with the bread we've done really horrible things to the flour. And on top of messing with the flour, we're also adding in a bunch of these ingredients that aren't supposed to be there. So even if we, which I'm going to show you the parts of a grain in a little while, but I first want to talk about like whole foods, okay? And we should strive to eat foods that are, we know what's in them. Like you're reading the boxes, you're reading the cans if you eat out of cans or boxes or whatever. You know what is in there. You're reading that ingredient list. And a good rule of thumb is if you can't pronounce that ingredient, you probably shouldn't be eating it, right? Like if you don't know, if it's not a simple ingredient and you can't tell what it is, it's probably a chemical, right? So, things you want to stay away from are obviously like canola oil, seed oils, just horrible high fructose corn syrup and just things like the preservatives and all of that. And I really strive to eat, organic because then you don't have to worry about the pesticides that are sprayed on the produce. And, later on, when you learn more about eating whole foods, you'll learn, there's differences in the quality of meat that you buy at the store. There's differences in this. And so when you learn about eating whole foods, it's really important. But again, the short answer is bread is not bad for us. It's just that we've been doing it wrong and we need to fix the problem. Okay. So today we're going to discuss the good, bad, and the ugly about bread. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the history of bread. I'm going to read some more Bible for you because, like I said, I'm a Bible believing Christian and we want to get our beliefs from the Bible. Okay. And the Bible says here, it says, and God said, behold, I have given you every herb bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat, and to every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the air, and to everything that creepeth upon the earth, wherein there is life, I have given every green herb for meat. And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And the evening and the morning were the sixth day. And that's in Genesis. And another scripture is really common. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread till thou return unto the ground, for out of it wast thou taken, for dust thou art, and unto dust shalt thou return. And this is obviously back in the Garden of Eden when Adam was punished for eating the forbidden fruit that his wife gave him. I mean, and God told him, in the sweat of your face, you're going to eat bread for the rest of your life, right? And so back in the Garden of Eden, we're eating bread, we're eating meat, we're eating vegetables. Okay. So bread has been our food source since literally the beginning of time. All right. And it was God's original plan that he gives us this wonderful variety of foods. I mean, we have fresh fruits and vegetables, we have meats from the animals, we have herbs for healing, and, whole seed bearing plants, which wheat is one of them. And so basically, it's said that whole grains such as wheat berries contain 40 of the 44 essential nutrients to sustain human life. And the remaining 4 we obviously get from fruits, vegetables, and meat. Okay. Grains and beans are storable, making them perfect to sustain human life during financial hard times, wars, and famines. Okay. I don't know if you realize this, but back in the day, there has been countries which actually, for times of war, they forbid the people to sift the flour, because when you sift the flour and you remove the bran and the germ, it actually reduces the amount that you have by 25%. So say you got 100, pounds of wheat and you mill that and you sift out the bran and germ, you're losing 25%. So you're losing 25% of your food source when you do that. Not to mention you're losing all of the nutrients that your body really needs. Okay. And so whole grains have been a foundational food for generations and generations, obviously, like I said, since the beginning of time. So what happened? Let's talk about what happened. So it was discovered at some point that flour made from milling the wheat berries could be sifted to make a fluffy bread, which produced, this fluffy, nice bread that we get with the white flour. And they would use the byproduct, the bran and the germ, to actually feed the servants or to feed animals. And usually this was, reserved for the wealthy. They would actually have bakers, like in the Bible, it talks about, the bakers and the cupbearers and things like that, they would have their servants sift it out, and then they would feed the servants, the bran and the germ that was left over, and then they would eat the white flour. And it's interesting that I was learning there's lots of kings and people in power and everything back in the day that had all these sicknesses that the common people didn't have, because the common people could not afford to eat and waste 25% of their food. So they're eating basically that bran and that germ, and they're healthier for it. Is I just thought that was so interesting when you look at the early days of them sifting this. So what ended up happening is in the late 1800s, early 1900s, they started this industrial rolling mill that was introduced and rolled out, and they started refining the flour, more commercially. And it just caught on and eventually put the local millers out of business. And white flour just became mainstream, unfortunately. And, so let's talk about again, what is missing from, white flour? What happened? So basically, what's missing is the bran, which is fiber and minerals, and the germ has vitamins and healthy fats like vitamin E. It's, crucial for us to have that. And we're left with just mostly protein and starch. And unfortunately, this happened to get a longer shelf life. It was not to make us healthier or anything like that. It's just that they learned that when you mill the flour, it actually starts to oxidize right away. So like when you cut an apple or cut an avocado or a banana, it starts to oxidize, it starts to turn brown, right? So basically what happened is they realized that when they sifted the bran and the germ away, that it basically made it last longer. But unfortunately, they also realized, hey, the people aren't going to like this color that happens when the oil actually does, go bad and it goes rancid. It turns the flour kind of this off color. So then they started bleaching the white flour, which caused all these other health problems that I'm not even going to go into today, but I will share some resources about that with the replay that I send out. So they did this for easier storage, longer shelf life, like I said, softer, lighter texture of the bread, but not at all for better health. All right. And the consequences of this was just widespread epidemics. And it took them a long time to figure out what was going on, unfortunately. Beriberi was, became a problem. It's a vitamin B1 deficiency, that's thiamine, and it results in nervous disorders, okay? Mental issues. Pellagra was another disease epidemic that was plaguing because of a vitamin B3 deficiency and niacin, and it results in GI disturbances, skin eruptions, mental insanity, and then finally death. And it's terrible. And it just plagued people back in the day. And then another thing that happened is much more anemia was happening because of the iron deficiency. And birth defects actually became another issue that was found. And all of these things were actually traced back to when they all started. And it turned out it was, mainly because of this processing and sifting of the bran and the germ. And all we have left is this white flour that, again, is just protein and starch mainly. There's not a whole lot of things that are good for you there. And that's why, a lot of health, advocates are saying, stay away from the white flour. And I say, yeah, pretty much, unless you're going to have like a treat or you eat out once in a while. Like, I'm not saying I'm never going to eat white flour again. I'm sure I will, but at the same time, when I am, in the comfort of my own home and I have the ability to make bread the way that it's supposed to be, I'm going to do it the way that it's supposed to be. Okay. So what happened after they discovered all of this going on is the health officials demanded that, they put these things back in the flour. And, these people said, no, we're not going to do that because we're selling the bran and the germ. It's animal feed. It's lucrative. We're not going to do that. So they went back and forth, and the health officials finally won and said, you will do something. You will put something in there. So their solution was they're going to put synthetic, nutrients back in. So they added iron and B vitamins back in, But this is where you get that enriched, where it says enriched on that bag of flour that you get, this is what you're getting. And the other problem that they had was, because the folate, was a problem as the birth defects, you know, were beginning to be noticed. They've added this back in, and now this MTHFR um, gene is being activated in so many more people these days. And it's a really big problem because these people cannot digest the proteins, or not, it doesn't have anything to do with the gluten, but they cannot digest this because of the B vitamins. The synthetic B vitamins is the problem. And so they are just having so many problems with this. But if you add in, the freshly milled flour, the people that have that gene mutation can actually tolerate this and they actually excel. Okay. Um, like I said, they only added these few things back in. Like I said earlier, it said that there's like, 40, some sources say there's 35 nutrients, 40, nutrients that are found in whole grains. So still, we're only adding back three: iron, B vitamins, and the folic acid, which the folic acid, like I said, people with that MTHFR, they cannot process anything with folic acid or with the B vitamins. It doesn't work for them. So they have to completely avoid, wheat. But if they had the freshly milled flour with all the nutrients and the enzymes and everything there, their body can actually handle that in most cases. So what do we have here today? We have these modern health struggles. We've got, blood sugar instability. People are just insulin resistant left and right. They're on their way to pre-diabetes. Many already have type 2 diabetes, serious digestive issues, diverticulitis. I mean, and the body responds very negatively to the white flour many times. You have rapid digestion, blood sugar spikes, you have energy crashes when you come down. You don't feel very good when you eat that a lot of times. And it affects people in different ways. Some people get, skin issues and all of these other things that we heard about. And even though they added these things back in, 50, some of them were added back in, 50 or 100 years after that, it hasn't fixed the problem. I mean, if you look around, people are still having mental issues. They're still suffering from anxiety and being crazy and having skin issues and all of these things because we're not getting the nutrients that God intended us to have. And so basically, the really big problem is that, these health professionals are really trying to help their people. They don't know that there's a difference. And the thing is, they recommend that they abstain, from eating the whole grains, but yet you put them on the supplements that are already in the bread. Literally, if you eat the freshly milled flour, the nutrients are all there. You don't need to take extra iron. You don't need to take magnesium. You don't need to take all of these extra things. It's literally in the bread. If we would just eat the bread, the Bible says, give us this day our daily bread, right? This is why we need these key nutrients. Okay. So whole grains are different. They help your body do things a whole lot different. Your blood sugar is going to be more stable. You're fuller faster. You have a slower digestion. And you don't have these negative, consequences down at the bottom here. Instead, you have, sustained energy. And I will tell you that, my quick little story with this already, I've only been doing the whole grains for a couple of months now. And I will tell you, I was not sleeping through the night before, which I am now because I'm over 40. So my hormones have started to decline. So I'm in the whole perimenopause thing. And sometimes I do really great and I am feeling amazing. But when my hormones start to decline again or they dip suddenly for whatever reason, I don't feel so well and I don't sleep so well at night and my cortisol goes higher and my, these other issues come up temporarily until I can get a grip again and figure out what's going on with my hormones again. And so, but ever since I added the baked goods made with freshly milled flour, I am sleeping not like a baby, but I am sleeping like my husband. Like I lay down at night and I go to sleep and I stay asleep all night. If I do happen to wake up because one of my children wakes me up or, something interrupts my sleep, I am falling right back to sleep. Unless I'm fully rested and it's early in the morning, then I just wake up and go get my day started because I have little kids. And so I'm happy to like just get going early if I'm fully rested. So I would recommend if you are, over 40, you have trouble sleeping, go to bed early because then after adding the freshly milled flour with all the magnesium and all of these things, to help your body, you're actually going to rest better. And if you do wake up super early in the morning, like 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, you're probably ready to go because you've had a good night's sleep. So, like I said, I'm sleeping better. I have had some scalp issues. I forget what it's called, but I looked it up, and the symptoms seemed to be like I had a dandruff issue that was starting to form, for like the last 6 months. And I've never had dandruff in my life. I've never had scalp issues. It's been the strangest thing that has happened. But about a year and a half ago, I got this strange itchy patch on the back of my head, like right here above the nape of my neck, right where my hair is. And it itched me like crazy, especially if I would get stressed out or if I would get too hot. We're outside and it's hot here in Arizona. It would just itch me like crazy. And of course, you can't help but scratch something like that. So then I had this oozing going on. It was so gross. It was so, so gross. And I showed my mom. I was so embarrassed. And I showed my mom a while back and I said, Mom, can you look at my scalp? I don't know what this is. And it has been bothering me for so long. And I'm so tired of it. And I tried everything. Like I tried castor oil. I tried all these creams and all these remedies. And literally, I can usually get things cleared up. Like I'm totally into herbs, essential oils, like you name it, I'm into it naturally. And so usually I can figure these things out and I can get things figured out. But this was not going away. And it had been there probably like a year and a half. 2 months on the freshly milled flour, this is almost completely healed. It is not even bothering me at all. I had my mom look at it again like a week ago. I said, Mom, I think my scalp is healing. I said, look at this. And she's like, what? She's like, I can't even tell where that was. Like, can you show me where it was? And I was like, Mom, right here, like right here. And she's like, I don't really see anything. And she's like, this is incredible. So it's been really amazing that way too. I've been so excited because that was really embarrassing to have this issue going on with my scalp and my hair. Like I quit wearing black for a long time because the dandruff was so embarrassing to me. And literally I can wear black now. It's like it's no problem. I'm so happy that my skin issues literally cleared up in just a few weeks. I was so excited. My energy levels are back. I feel so energized throughout the day. I felt like I was stuck in fight or flight for a while. I felt really stressed out, even though I couldn't really put my finger on what my problem even was. Like, I live a very blessed life. I have a great husband, great kids. Like, we have a nice family life, but I just was stressed out and I couldn't figure out. And I do have high energy. I am, high strung a little bit, but I'm typically not stuck in fight or flight. Like, I typically can calm down, but my cortisol got shot up and stuck. And I could not figure out how to get myself calmed down. When I started eating the bread, I finally chilled out. It was amazing to me. I was like, wow, I am really patient with my kids. I haven't been this patient with my kids in a lot. And I noticed that because I feel bad sometimes as a mom. I snap at my kids sometimes. You know what I mean? And it doesn't feel good. Unfortunately, kids have to be told more than once for things, and you do that, and it gets irritating as a mom sometimes. It's like, come on, I told you to do this. But now, I'm more calm about it. I just take action, do what needs to be done, but I'm calm about it. I'm not, losing my mind about it anymore. So many positive changes are going on with my own personal journey right now. I just can't help but share it. I'm so, so excited. So let's talk about this whole grain. So the complete grain has the bran, the germ, and the endosperm, and nothing is removed here. When you buy the grains, from a company. Like I typically will get mine from Azure Standard if they have them in stock. Or if they don't, this last time I had to get them from, I think it's called Grand Teton, Ancient Grains. I use the einkorn, but there's many other wheat berries out there. You don't have to use what I use. But you get the whole grain and you mill it yourself. All of the nutrients are intact. All of it's there. Now you do need to bake with it, relatively quickly because it does oxidize. It is a whole food. And so, use it the same day. Like I mill my flour and I bake with it right after I mill it because I want to retain those nutrients. And once you bake with it, so you bake your breads, that is kind of like blanching your vegetables in a way. For those that are familiar with like canning or freezing, you blanch it and then it basically stops that oxidation process. And so it's the same thing when you bake it, it basically slows that down. And so basically, you just want to mill those berries yourself. And it's a very easy. You have an electric grain mill. That's the easiest thing to do. You can get, the crank hand mill, but I don't want to do that. I do want to have one in case I lose electricity. But right now I have an electric grain mill. You literally just dump the grains in and turn it on. And a couple minutes later, you pull out the bowl. Or if you have one that you use your own bowl, you can literally just have the flour dispensed right in the mixing bowl that you're going to be preparing your dough in. And so it's really amazing. Now take a look at all of these nutrients that are inside a grain of wheat. Okay, take a look at this. Magnesium, iron, all of these amazing potassium. I mean, so many amazing things, right? And like I said, the funny thing is these health professionals are telling you, get off the white flour, which I agree with that. Most of what you eat should be, whole grain should be with a freshly milled flour. But if they only knew and could differentiate between, the white flour and the whole grain freshly milled, then they would be able to just have this for their client, tell them, do this instead. And then you don't have to buy all the extra supplements, but I guess there's no money in that, right? I also sell supplements, but I always try to get my clients onto real food and try to fix those, you know, deficiencies naturally with food. And we can't always do that, especially if we're extremely nutrient deficient. Like I do still take some minerals because I was nutrient deficient for a long time, but I can tell now. I mean, after being on this freshly milled flour for only a couple months, I mean, even my nails are growing back. I used to have to wear the press-on nails. I don't have to wear those anymore. My Beam Minerals got me to the point where at least I didn't have to do that, but it took a long time compared to this freshly milled flour route, literally 2 months, and the ridges and the, all of the unnatural things that were happening, the pitting and the ridges and the discoloration of my nails is gone. It's completely growing out healthy and strong. And I see the little moons that are supposed to be there, and I have not seen those in years. Okay. So eventually, I will not even be doing the extra minerals except for when I'm doing an extended fast or something else is going on. But as long as I can get all of my nutrients from real whole foods, I'm going to do that because I'd rather make something like bread that my whole family can eat rather than spending a bunch of money on supplements that only I get to use and that we don't get any food. We're not eating anything. That's like money that we could have spent on food. You know what I mean? But we're spending it on these extra supplements where God really created amazing food for us if we would just eat it and eat it in the ways that he wants us to have it, the way that he prepared it for us. So why fresh milling matters, like I said, the nutrients are intact. There's no additives, no preservatives, and common benefits that are reported is better digestion. I mean, people are having better, you know, sorry to say, but bowel movements. If you're not going number two every single day, there's a problem. There's a really big problem because you not going to the bathroom is basically you're storing those toxins that your body's needs to get rid of. Okay. So, better digestion, more stable energy, fewer cravings, improved blood sugar response. I have listened to several stories of people with type 2 diabetes actually being able to get off their medication and just doing freshly milled flour. It regulated this one gentleman's blood sugar levels in like a year. Okay. So amazing. And a lot of people are scared of the bread because they're like, what is it going to do with my blood sugar? I'm going to send you some resources on a full explanation of what happens with our blood sugar when we consume whole grains. Like we talked about earlier, it's going to have a slower, response. It contains fiber, so that is going to help us not to have that huge spike. Also, fat, is in that wheat berry, so that also helps us not to have that spike. But it's also normal when you eat to have, a blood sugar spike of like 20, to 30. That's normal. And if you're doing that a couple of times a day, that's fine. Okay. That's expected, with the meal that you eat. That if you're trying to like balance every single meal to where your blood sugar doesn't spike at all, that's a lot of work. And I don't really think that God wants us to be so worried about having all of these, readings for this and that and all of these monitors. And I think all of that is helpful to see where we're at sometimes and to learn and to see how things are affecting our blood sugar. But when we eat real whole foods that God provided for us, I don't think that we should have to be concerned with all of that. And that's just how I feel about it. I mean, God knew that we were going to make a fool of ourselves with all of this food business, but He created food for us so amazing that if we would just, like I said, do it His way, we will be sustained, we will be healthy, and we don't have to like track all the calories, track all the blood sugars, track all your macros. Like, who wants to live like that? I know I don't. I just want to eat real food and move on with my life, right? So, anybody with me on that? Like, it just drives me crazy with all of this tracking. And, I'm a coach and I'll help you figure it out. I'll help you learn how to do it. If you don't know how to do it, I'll totally help you. But the idea behind all of those things is to help you to learn to eat real food and to help you learn how things affect your blood sugar and help you to learn how to eat better so that you don't have to have all of that anymore. So they're great tools to use temporarily or every once in a while, check back and see how you're doing. But that is not how we should be living our lives. We shouldn't be all wrapped up in this data all the time. It's just too much. Let's just eat real food, right? So, this wheat free and grain free propaganda, this is mostly based on the white flour only. Like I said before, the health professionals are not making a distinction between the white flour and the freshly milled flour. And even if you get whole wheat in the store, it is still processed the same way. The bran and the germ is still removed, and guess what? It's enriched back in. Only some of it is put back in. It is not the same as milling those wheat berries at home. It's just not. And, the enrichment causes a big problem for a lot of people. Like I said, those with that MTHFR gene. And number two, we are getting health advice from evolutionists instead of Bible. And that could be really a misguided thing for us. Like, obviously, God knows how to feed us, and He made all of these wonderful foods to nourish us. And this misinformed information, we don't need that. We don't need that. And, we don't need to have to supplement all of the things that we can't get from food because we're not paying attention to what the Bible says. We need to dig in a little bit deeper and learn how to eat better. And then we won't have to, like I was doing before. Before I learned about the freshly milled flour, I was just keeping the breads and the pastas mainly in, like the week before my cycle when I wasn't fasting. But the times of my cycle where my female hormones liked a lower blood glucose, I typically didn't eat it. And the Bible says, give us this day our daily bread. So God actually wants us to be able to enjoy bread every single day. So if we enjoy it as a freshly milled, product, then we can actually do that and not have negative side effects and instead have health benefits. Okay. So that's the amazing thing. We need to just stop taking health advice from people that believe in evolution, because that's not what we believe. We didn't come from monkeys. We just didn't. Okay. God created us in his own image. Okay. And so he made our bodies to be able to handle real foods and for those foods to be able to nourish our bodies. And so, number three, true genetic celiac disease affects only 1% of Americans. But yet we have health professionals that are diagnosing adults, with like this supposed adult onset celiac disease. And it's people with true celiac disease know as a child that they cannot tolerate wheat products. And, a lot of people are just misdiagnosed, unfortunately. And so if you're one of these people that you suspect that you could possibly tolerate wheat in its whole food form, then I encourage you to give it a try if you're not truly celiac, and if your doctor has, told you to be, gluten-free. I mean, same thing. Let's talk about it. It's mainly based on the white flour findings only, not on freshly milled flour. And when the whole grain is made into flour and the appropriate nutrients and enzymes are there, we can actually digest those proteins. And a lot of people think that, because they don't understand what gluten is, they think that they need to eat gluten free. Well, gluten is just the stretchy material that, or the substance that forms when the proteins there are hydrated. That's all it is. And the purpose of that stretchy gluten is to trap the carbon dioxide so that it can make the bread rise. And God designed it that way for a reason, to rise the bread. And so the problem is with the enriched flours and with the, whole wheat or whole grain, whatever they call it at the grocery store, they actually add in extra gluten. So this could be another problem. When the bran and the germ is sifted, you don't have the enzymes and the nutrients you need to digest that. And then they're adding extra gluten on top of it. So they're adding fire to fire and then wondering why we're having such a problem with this food. It's because God didn't make it that way. He didn't intend us to mess up this food this way. So phytic acid is another common thing that comes up. This scared me for a long time. I was afraid to eat like beans for a while and also breads and too much nuts and all of this. It scared me too with this phytic acid because I heard all about this, that it's an anti-nutrient and can cause all these other problems. And I got sucked into this too. And I had really bad dental problems back in the day, huge dental bills. And what it boils down to is phytic acid is actually a very powerful antioxidant that helps us to detox. It literally helps us it keeps us from absorbing too much iron and too much calcium. And our digestive system actually is able to break this down when we have those nutrients that are supposed to be in the freshly milled flour. When everything is all there, it all works together synergistically. Again, God knew exactly what he was doing. We just think we know everything. Right? We just think we know better, and we don't. So if you're really still concerned about the phytic acid, I understand. Like I said, I was sucked into this too. I got scared too because of all my dental issues. But what you can do is, if this is still a concern for you with like the gluten and the phytic acid, just freshly mill your flour and do sourdough. That way you have the best of both worlds. Okay. Um, it'll help you to be able to digest it and it'll cut down on that phytic acid. Okay. But again, with phytic acid, there's studies out there showing that once it's cooked, it is not going to harm you. Okay. So we don't eat beans raw. We typically are not eating grains raw. I mean, we're cooking it, even if we're eating it as a cereal, as a breakfast cereal. So we're always cooking it, and you can sprout them for additional health benefits that will also help with digestibility. So there's different ways that you can get around these things. And though I appreciate what the health officials are trying to do, and the medical people and all of these people that are in health, I think a lot of them, their heart is in the right place, but they're just misinformed. And, that can cause a really big problem, and it can cause us to recommend things the wrong way. And so going back to my teachings and my group coaching and my personal coaching, I did recommend before that, Dr. Mindy teaches avoid the breads, the pastas, and the sugars. And my teaching before was, this is how Dr. Mindy recommends you to do it. This is how I do it because I'm a Christian and the Bible says, give us this day our daily bread. So I'm not going to cut out bread from my life totally. It's just not going to, it's not sustainable for me. I'm just not going to do it. There's something missing with this picture that we should be able to eat bread. And that verse just kept popping up in my head over and over again. Give us this day our daily bread. So I'm just like, there has to be a way that we can actually eat this bread and be healthy, So that's what I always told my people. But now I'm flipping this. My coaching is now going to actually include that I recommend people to eat bread made with freshly milled flour. And from now on, that is going to be my recommendation, even for people with type 2 diabetes. I'm still going to recommend it because there are studies showing, and there's a lot of anecdotal information out there as well, story after story after story of people who have actually been able to reverse diabetes with these diet changes and switching that bread to the freshly milled flour, and they have succeeded at either reducing their medication or being able to get off of it altogether and controlling their diabetes with food alone. And some have reversed it completely. And it is totally possible. I don't know if you realize this, but type 2 diabetes is reversible completely. If you get your metabolic health straightened out, adding freshly milled flour can be part of that. It is a reversible disease. You don't have to live that way. You don't have to live on those drugs for the rest of your life. I understand type 1 is a totally different story, but type 2, that can be controlled. That can be something that can be healed with work, with your doctor and a health coach to help you. Because see, a lot of doctors, they're not trained in nutrition. They're not trained in diet. They're trained to basically go off of your symptoms. They look at your symptoms and then, okay, here's the diagnosis. And then, okay, for this diagnosis, this is the medication that goes with that. It's a matching game for them. And that's what they were taught in medical school. Many of them are not taught nutrition. Okay. It's just not part of what they learn unless they specifically, go for that, like a naturopathic that, studies in nutrition. I mean, it's very specific, but your regular, you know, medical doctor is not trained in that. And so they may be, like I said, not doing anything to harm you that they know of. Like they think that they honestly believe they're helping you many times. And but you could actually help yourself too. You don't have to rely on them completely. You could do your own research and you can learn how to nourish your body. Your body's communicating with you. Any symptoms that you're feeling fatigue and lethargic and, whatever you're feeling, you're having skin issues like I did, migraines, headaches, diabetes. I mean, so many of these things, our body is trying to tell us, hey, something's missing. You're doing something that needs to change. I don't like how things are happening here. And when we fuel our body with the right foods and we give it sunshine and water and these different things, and obviously there's a spiritual side as well, but when we get all of these components in place, it changes very quickly in many cases, like in mine. I mean, my mom has already noticed benefits too. I've been taking her freshly milled flour and she's seen benefits already, and I can't wait to share those at another time. So you ask, what should we do then? So my invitation to you, my advice to you is to join my Nourish and Flourish membership. It's a new monthly membership where we're going to learn how to get started in this, and we're going to learn how to do this together. I am learning. I'm just a couple of months ahead of you, but I have so many resources that I've found that I'm excited to share with you. I want to actually do live cook-alongs and meal prep and bake-alongs with you. Some of them I'm going to be sharing in an exclusive group on Facebook that we're going to be in together. And some of them we're going to actually do a bake along. Like I'm going to send you an ingredient list. Like here's what we're going to make together. And we're going to set a time and we're going to do this together. And so it's going to be a great time of learning. I'm going to have a lot of things that I was planning to do with a group that I was creating called Fasting Friends Circle. I actually am changing the name to that because I thought that the Nourish and Flourish sounded more appropriate after learning about the freshly milled flour. So I'm also incorporating a lot of the things that I was going to incorporate in the Fasting Friends Circle in this. So if you're interested in learning about the fasting lifestyle and how that has also helped me in my health journey immensely, there's going to be fasting protocols in there. There's going to be meal planning in there. I'm going to be teaching you about hormones inside the group and how to deal with perimenopause and menopause and all of these things, PCOS, metabolic issues that come up. And we're going to have so much fun as ladies working together. And I'm going to help you in my membership group. Now, this group is new. I'm hoping to roll it out next week. And if I do, we'll make some fun bread together. And if I do not, I do plan on rolling out in May. So May will be our first official time where we have our foundation's first meeting, but I may roll it out next week because I'm really excited about it. And if I am able to roll it out next week, then what we'll do to kick it off is we'll just bake some bread together, in celebration of, you joining the group after hearing about freshly milled flour and how you can include this in your life and add this back in, get the bread back in there. So in conclusion, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for joining on this important topic of bread. Like, I'm so excited to incorporate bread back into our daily life. Like I said, we never cut out bread completely, but I'm so excited to actually be able to embrace bread and other bread products, muffins and tortillas and banana breads and pizza dough and everything, bread in every meal. So I'm so excited about it. And I'm really glad that you're here. So if you'd like more information, please email me at support@coachamandawright.com. Or if we're friends on Facebook, send me a message. If we're not friends, let's be friends. Send me a friend request and send me a message. Let me know what you're excited about. If you're interested in me rolling this out next week, then let me know that and I will get on the ball and I will get this rolled out. But if not, we'll definitely get it started in May. And we're definitely going to be incorporating a lot of the freshly milled flour information, education. And when I send out this replay, if you did register for this, I'll send out the replay to you and I will include all of the resources that I got this information from, like where I learned this, so that you can go back and dig deeper, because there's no way that I could share everything that I have learned in this short amount of time. And so thank you so much for being here. And I look forward to seeing you all in my new membership group. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And thank you so much. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.